Welcome back to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to be learn about what are the basic data types in C++. A data types determines the type and the operations that can be performed on the data. C++ provides various data types and each data type is represented differently within a computer memory. Classifieds of basic data types in C++ are means there are many data types available in C++. There are classifieds under two categories. First one is built-in or fundamental data types, and another one is derived or user-defined data types. Now, what are the basic data types? Data types which are fundamental data types, data types modifiers, derived data types, and user-defined data types. These are the four basic types of the data types. First one is fundamental data type modifiers, derived data type, and the user-defined data type. We have the built-in data types which are character, integer, float, and double. So without these data types, we have void and the Boolean data types as well. What are the derived data types? They are the components composed of built-in data types. Example, array, structure, union, class, and the pointer, etc. So these are derived data types. The user-defined data types are those which are first declared and defined by the user before. Like we study in our next lectures means after many lectures we are studying structure, union, class, enumerations, and the user defined means enumerations are the user defined data types. So these structure, union, class, and enumerations are our user defined data types. Now we see what is the character data type. So this is the character, and this is our data types. Then the another data types here is integer, then float, void, and boolean. Character refers to the alphabet only, means A, B, C, D, etc. So these special characters are defined in the ASCII character set like this one. Okay. Now integer are only takes the number like here 4, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6, or anything 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now float value always take the value as a point like this one. Okay. So the void data types is used for specifying an empty parameter list, unaction, and return types for a function. And the boolean, as you know that it's always work on true and false, mean either the value is 1 and 0 means true or false. Now we see the array. So an array is a set of elements of the same data types but are refers to by the same name. And we see the function now. A function is a self-contained programs segment that carry out a specific well-defined task. And the reference is an alternative name of the variable that is a reference is an alias of a variables in a program. Now we see the coding example of the data type in C++. I just clear this and here I just write hash include iostream. Then here I just write using name space using name space std and integer main. Okay, now cout, which is the size of character, and then here I just write size of and pass the character. Okay, and then here I just write which is the byte, and here I just write end line. So end line is a single line break. Okay, now I just copy this and paste it for integer. So it is integer and size of, sorry, it's a size of character, and this is the size of integer. Okay, now I just copy this for short integer, and here is write short and the integer. Okay, now we just see the output. So I just execute and run this code, and yes, we have an error in this line, and this is the less than sign. Okay, and here execute it again. So you can see the size of character is 1 byte, the size of integer is 4, and the size of short integer is 2. I just copy this and paste it for long integer and float and double. Here I just write for long and for long integer, then float, and here I just write float and double, and this is double. Okay, this is float. Now run this code, and as you can see here, character size of the character is 1 byte, integer short which is 2, long integer which is 4, float which is 4 byte, and double which is 8 byte. First of all, I just include a library, then namespace, then the main method, then cout, which is the character of this is the line print which is cout, size of the character, and then this is get the size from character, and this is also a print of the bytes which is 1. So this is a simple example of getting the size of the character, integer, and float values. Thanks for watching this lecture. See you in next lecture.
Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are look at how variable work in C++ and we will look at the data type concept in C++. Let's just check the data type concept in C++. Data can be of many types, for example, character, integer, real, string, etc. Here we just see some of the concept of the real, character, integer, string, etc. Anything enclosed in a single quotation represent the character in C++. Numbers without fraction represent integer data, and the number with fraction represent the real data. And anything enclosed in double quotations represent a string. So C++, like any other language, provides ways and facilities to handle different types of data by providing the data types. Data types means the data types are means to identify the types of the data and associated operations of handling it. C++ data types are like types of two data types, which are fundamental types and the derived data types. Derived data types constructed from the fundamental types are array, function, pointer, reference, constants, classes, structure, union, and enumeration. And the fundamental data types are integer data types, character, float point numbers, and double data types and the void data types. So we have the sum of the range and sum of the storing size of the data types, which is character take 1 data types and integer take 2 or 4 storage bytes in the data types, and then we have the long, which take 4 byte in the data type, and then float, which also take 4 byte, and then double, it's take 10 bytes of storage size in the data type. Okay, so let's just see the example of this data type in C++. So here I just write hash include and IOStream. It's IOStream. Then here I just define using namespace, which is std. Okay, now here I just define void main as the main function. So void mean nothing here. Okay, now here I just write integer. So integer is our data type here, so I just provide integer, which is num1, and integer num2, and then I just provide sum, which is equal to 0. So first of all, I just take 3 integers here, which is a number 1, number 2, and add the last sum, which is equal to 0, means this is equal to 0. So C out here, so C out, and then I will print enter any two numbers to find the sum. Okay, and then here I just define slash n for single line break here. So this is if you want to give the single line break to your text, you simply use slash n with that. Now I just define cin. So cin is for taking the user input. We will learn about that in our next lecture. So num1 and num2 here. So I just take 2 user input with num1 and num2. So I will add the value of num1 here, then add the value of num2 here. Then here I just define the logic. So sum is a variable here, and variable type is the integer here. So num1 plus num2. So I just create a logic here to add these two numbers with number 1 and number 2, and then I just print cout, and the cout here is, I just write slash n for the single line break, and here I just write sum of 2 number r, and then close this, and here I just write concatenation of sum here. So I just write, give it the result of sum to this cout, and then return 0, means return nothing. If you are also just write get ch here, and then close this code here. This is means that when you are just closing the program, when you're just getting the results, the program will not get closed by default. So I just simply define return 0, and I just run this code, and this is compiling here, and yes. So as you can see here, this is the output of the data types with the integer. So I just write 2, then enter and 2. So it will give me the result of for here. So this is the simple program of the data type with the integer. If you want to take the input data type with the float, so simply write float, string, and any data type. Here now just turn to the functions. So now we just turn to the variables of the C++. First of all, we just check how to define the variable in C++. So I just create a new program, and here I just save this program with variable2.c++. So here I just told you that first of all the definition of the variable. So variable represent storage location in the computer memory. Constants are data items whose value cannot change while the program is running. So this is called the variables. So variable allow you to store and work with data in the computer memory. Now just see the example of this variable here. And here, first of all, I just define the library of hash include and iostring. Okay, now using namespace std. Okay, and then I just define integer main, which is a main function here, and afterwards I just open my brackets here, and here I just declare the variable. So integer a and b is my variables here, and then I just define integer result. So integer result is my third variable here. So these all are my variables here. Now we just do processing on these variables. So a, which is equal to 5, b, which is equal to 6, and a, which is equal to a minus b. So I just define some of the operations on that, and here after that I just write a, which is equal to a plus 1, and then I just write result, which is equal to a minus b. So I just print this result. So here I just write cout, and the cout here is I just write the result here. Okay, so I just print this result in the cout, and now I just terminate this program with return 0. So this is my simple program to declaring the variable. So here, as you can see, I just define two variables and then integer result. So this is also my variable. So this is simply defining or declaring the variables here. So I just run this code right now and click on yes. So yes, I just missed this semicolon here and print again. And you can see here my expected output is 0 here. Okay. So a which is 6 and b which is also 6, so 0. A minus b, which is 0. Okay, now we just see one other example of this declaring the variables here. So now we just see the example of declaring the variable. So I just create one other file with the variables here. So I just write variable number 3.c++. So I just copy this hash include and iostream here and paste it here. Now I just define integer main, and after that I just going to create a variable with the name of integer number, and then number which is equal to 5. Now after that I just write cout, and the cout here is I just write that the value of number is, and I just close this string here, and here I just print number, and then end with end line. So this is also the basic operator to end the line, so basic operations to end the line here. And now cout, which is I just write the value of number is, and here I just print the number. So this is the number which is integer what I just create in my with my variable here. Okay, so end line, so end my this line here, and number which is equal to 7. So I just define the number which is equal to 7 and then cout, which is now the value of number is. So I just change the value of the number here. Okay, and here I just write number as a concatenation and then end line. Okay, so end line here. Okay, now at the last I just write return and 0. So this is my second example what I is creating for the variables here. First of all, I just create the variable name which is a number, and the number which is equal to 5. So the value of number is, then I print this number value, and afterwards it will go to change the value of this number. And I just run this code right now, and you can see here the value of the number is, and the number you can see first line, and then it will print the number here, and then it will change the another value of this number which is 7. Now we just see one another example with a variable assignment and initialization. So here, as an assignment operator is assigning or copying a value into the variable, you have also seen that it is possible to assign value to the variable when they are defined. This is called initialization. When multiple variables are defined in same statement, it is possible to initialize some of them without having to initialize all of them. In C++ terminology, the operand on the left side of the is equal to symbol must be an value that identify are placed in the memory whose content may be changed. Now we just see the example of value assignment and initialization, and here I just create another file which is variable number 4.c++. Here I just define hash and include, which is IOStream. Then I just define using namespace, which is std, and here I just define integer main, which is the main function here. Now I just define a variable or initialize a variable with the name of a string, and string which is month, and month which is equal to, I just write here February. So this is the month name here, and this is February. Okay, and now I just close this string here. So month is initialized to the February here. Okay, so now I just define one another variable which is data type, which is integer, and integer which is year. So year is not initialized here. Okay, now here I just define days, and days which is equal to 28. So days is initialized to 28 here, like month is initialized to February here. So year is not initialized here. Okay, now here I just initialize or assign the value to my year. So year which is 2018. So now year is assigned a value, means now year is initialized here. Now here I just write cout, which is here I just write in. So in here, and here I just write the variable name which is year, and after this year I just use some of the empty string here, and then I just write here month. So this is also the variable here, so I just print this variable. So here I just write month head, and here I just write days. Okay, and then I just write days dot slash n here, and I just close this code here. Okay, now I just write return, and sorry, it's return which is 0. So first of all, I just create a library, and then using namespace, then integer main function here. Now here I just creating the data type which is string, which is a month, is equal to February. So month is initializing the February, means month is assigning a value which is the February here. Then year have the no initialization, so which is simply the year. Then days, which is equal to 28, so days is initialized to 28 here. And then in the line number 9, year, which is equal to 2018, so year is initialized here, means assign a value to the year here, which is 2018. Then I just print cout, which is the string of in, and then print the variable year, month, and had the days, and at the last I just write days. Okay, so I just check the output for this code and see the result, what is the printed here. So here you can see in 2008 February has had 28 days. So this is simply the output of this initializing the variable. In 2018 February had 28 days. So this is a simple output of this example. Now we just see the variable scope here. A variable scope is a part of the program that has access to the variable. The scope of the variable is a part of the program where it may be used. The first rule of the scope is that a variable cannot be used in any part of the program before it's defined. Like, I just create one another program with variable scope and variable number 5.c++. I just copy this and paste it here. Now I just define a variable which is integer. Sorry, not define the variable so far. So I just define cout, and then here I just write the value. Okay. So the value has not been defined yet. Means this is an error here. This program what I am just creating, it cannot find its variable here. Okay. Now after that, this cout, I just define the integer value and initialize the value which is 100. So I just define the scope here, which is integer value which is equal to 100 scope. And at the last I just write return, and return is 0 here. Now just check the output for this code and return yes. The return value is yes. So you can see here this is the error, which is cout value is not defined here. Okay. So you can see here the error, which is value was not declared in the scope. So this is simply the variable with its scope. So I just told you the rule of the scope is that a variable cannot be used in any part of the program before its definition. When I just define this value here and run this code right now, so you can see here my variable value is 10. So this is simply the variable scope, that you cannot define the variable before the program is defined. Okay, so I just give it the same position, which is integer value, which is 100. So this is simply the variable scope. So if you find any of the problem regarding the variables and the data type in the C++, please let me know. Thanks for watching this lecture.
Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to be learn about the variables and its type in C++. A variable provides us which name store that our programs can manipulate. Each variable in C++ has a specific type which determines the size and the layout of the variable memory. The range of the value that can be stored within that memory and the set of the operations that can be applied to the variable. The name of the variable can be composed of letter, digits, and underscore character. It must be with either a letter or a underscore. Upper and a lowercase letter are distinct because C++ is a case-sensitive language. We have different types of variables, which is Boolean character, integer, float, double, void, and var character, means the wide range of characters. Now we see how to define the variable in C++. So simply I just write here hash include and IO stream. Then using name space std and int main. Okay. Now here I just define integer which is k, l, m. So these are our three variables. Then character which is c and ch. Then I just write float and the float which is f, and here I just write job. Okay. And then double which is d. So these are the sum of the variables in C++. So however, programming is not limited only to print simple text on the screen. In order to go a little further on and to become able to write programs that perform useful tasks that really save us work, we need to introduce the concept of the variable. Let's imagine that I ask you to remember the number 5, and then I ask you to also memorize the number 2 at the same time. You have just stored two different values in your memory, which is 5 and 2. However, if I ask you to add 1 to the first number, and I said you should be retaining the number 6, that is 5 plus 1, and then and 2 is your memory. Then we could, for example, subtract these values and obtain 4 as a result. So this is impossible for you. But for computer, you just simply write a which is equal to 5, then b which is equal to 2, and a which is equal to a plus 1. And then you just write result which is equal to a minus b. Simply you just write for the computer. So it will solve for you. Means I just told you that first of all you just take 5 as a number, then 2, then add a which is equal to a plus 1. Means add the value, means add 1 in the value number a, which is 5 plus 1 6, and then result subtract a from b. So you will get the 4 as a answer. Okay. Now we just go to the declaration of variable in C++. Now we have the integer which is int z. Then I just write int I which is equal to 3. Then I just write cout the value, the value of the variable, and then I just write concatenation of I. I just told you about the concatenation in our next lectures, and then I just concatenate, I just print z and end line. Okay, and return 0. Okay, now I just execute this. So here I just write variable 1, and this program is executing here, and you can see my value here is variable of 3, means variables are 3, and then the values here slash, and the value of z is taking by default, which is 1. Now we see one another example of declaration of a variable, definition and initialization of the variable. So here I just create one another file which is hash include istream using namespace std and int main. Okay, now before that main file, I just declare a variable which is extern int a and b, then extern int c, then extern float f, right? Variable number 2. Okay, now our variables are declared here. Now I just define these variables, so integer a and b, then integer c, then I just write float which is f. Now I just initialize these variables, means initialize means gave the value to this variable, so b which is equal to 20, a which is equal to 10, and c which is a plus b, c which is equal to a plus b. Now c out which is c, and here I just write end line for the single line break, and here I just write the float value which is equal to 90.0 and divided by 30.1. Okay, and here I just write c out which is f and end line. So here return 0 means return nothing, and execute. And we have an error here which is the file c and semicolon. Now I just run this code, and the error here with b is equal to 20 because I just missed a semicolon here too, and I just run it now. So here you can see the value is the 30 here, means 10 plus 20 which is 30, and then value of f is 90 slash 30.1 which is 22.9903 is a expected output of this program. So this is a simple programs to define, declare and initialize the variables in C++. Thanks for watching this lecture. See you in next lecture.
Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talking about a reference variable in C++. A reference variable is an alias that is another name for an already existing variable. Once a reference is initialized with a variable, either the variable name or the reference name may be used to refer the variable. Let's just see how to create this reference variable. Here I just not defining the includer for header file here, so I just write int I which is equal to 17. This is our normal variable, and I just make it the reference, so I just use here the and sign with my variable and give it the variable another name which is like a which is equal to I. So this variable is reference variable here. So think of a variable name is a label attached to the variable location in a memory. You can then think of a reference as a second label attached in that memory location, as I just attach the second variable which is a. Therefore, you access the content of the variable through either the original variable name or the reference. Let's just see the example of this reference variable here, and I just write hash include and iostream. This is my header file here. Now using namespace std, and here I just write integer main. So this is my main function here. Now I just define a variable, so integer x which is equal to 10. So this is my variable name here, which is integer x which is equal to 10. And now I just define the reference variables to my x variable, so integer and which is the reference variable is equal to x. So here I just create a variable which is the name of reference, so reference which is equal to 20. So I just assign the value of x is now changed to 20. Sorry, here it's 20. Okay, so now the reference variable value is 20 and the x value is changed to 20. Now here I just write cout, and cout here I just write x and sorry x which is equal to, and then here I just write x, I just print this x here, and then I just write end line to end this line. Now x which is equal to 30. So the value of x is now changed to 30. First of all, the value of x is 10, then value of x is 20 as a change of reference variable, and then now value of x is 30. So cout here is, I just write reference which is equal to, I just write here, I just print reference here and then end line, and at the last I just write return 0. Okay, so now I just run this code, and yes, so it's compiling here. So as you can see here, my value of x is 20 because I just changed this value with the reference variable, and then change this value with reference which is 30. You can see here I just changed these all values with the help of reference variable. So this is a simple example of the reference variable in C++. If you find any of the problem regarding to this reference variable or any of my other lectures, so please let me know. Thank you.
Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to be learn about the standard inputs and outputs in C++. C++ comes with libraries which provide us many ways of performing input and outputs in C++. C++ input and output is performed in the form of sequence of the bytes and or more commonly known as streams. What is the input stream? If I declaration to follow of bytes is form of device, for example keyboard, to the main memory, then its process is called input. Output stream, if I declare of flow of a byte is opposite, for example from main memory to device display the screen, then this process is called output. We have different header file which is iostream, io manip, and f stream, like this one, iostream, then io manip, and f stream. Okay, now we see the example of the standard input and output in C++. Usually when we take the user input from the keyboard, so it is called input. So hash include iostream using name space std and then int main. Now integer age, so I just give it the example of the age, so cout which is equal to enter your age. So this is the output file. Okay, and cin which is age. Okay, so I just take the user input here which is cin, then I just write cout as a user output, and then here I just write slash n, so it's slash n for the single line break as well, so your age is, and then here I just concatenate age and return 0, right? Here I just write input output. Okay, now I just execute this program, and you can see enter your age as a user input. So I just write 25, and so our program is exit very fast, so that's why I just write system pause, because when I just declare the system pass, so after getting the result, our program is not closed automatically. So 25, and then you can see the output, which is your age is 25. So this is a simple example of user input and user output. Thanks for watching this lecture. See you in next lecture.
Welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to talking about the input and output streaming from the keyboard. C++ standard library provide an extensive set of input and output capabilities which we will see in subsequent lecture. This lecture will discuss very basic and most common input and output operations required for C++ programming. First of all, we just see input stream. Input stream is if the direction of flow of byte is from of device. For example, keyboard. So to the main memory, then this process is called input. Means when you just giving the input from keyboard, so this is called the input stream. And the output stream is if the direction of flow of byte is opposite. For example, for main memory to drive device, like when you just see the output to the screen, then this process is called output. We have some of the header files available in C++ for input and output operations, which are input output stream, which is IO stream. Here you can see here, this is input and output stream. Input output stream stands for standard input and output stream. This header file contains definitions of the object like cn, cout, cerr, etc. Then we have input output main IP, which is stand for input output manipulator. The method declared in this file are use of manipulating stream. This file contains definition of set w and set precision, etc. Then we have the third header file, which is fstream, which is this header file mainly describe the file stream. The header file is used to handle the data being read from a file as an input or data being written into the file as a output. We have so far one header file here. So as you can see here, hash include, and here I just write IO, and this is IO main IP, and you can see here hash include, and here is write f stream. So these are the some of the header files. So I just not use these files in this lecture, so I just totally work on the input and output, which is the standard library of IO stream. So now we just check the standard output stream. So the predefined object cout is an instance of the OS stream class, means output stream class. The cout object is set to be connected to the standard output device, which usually is the display screen. The cout is used in the conjunction with the statement insertion operator, which is written as like double less than sign, which are two less than sign as shown on your screen. So let's just see the example of that output stream. So here I just define main function, and after this main function I just define one of the character here. So character, and character I just take the string as a character here, and which is equal to, here I just take string which is hello cout. Okay, and now I just print this statement like cout, which is the value of str is equal to, I just write here str, I just print, and then double less than sign with end line. Now return 0. So I just run this code and check the output for this output streaming, and it is compiling here. And as you can see here, this is my output result. So the C++ compiler is also determine the data type of the variable to be output and select the appropriate stream insertion operator to display the value. This double less than sign operator is overloaded to output data item for built-in type, integer, float, double string, and pointer value. The insertion operator may be used more than one in a single statement as shown like end line. Okay, is used to add a new line in the end of the line. Okay, now I just create one another file for my cin, and here I just write keyboard input, which is 1.c++, and here I just write hash include, it's hash include, and this is iostream, hash include and iostream, and then using namespace, which is std, and integer main. Okay, so our C++ standard input streaming is the predefined object cin in an instance of iStream class. Means this is input stream class. The cin object is said to be attached to the standard input device, which usually is the keyboard. The cin is used to conjunction with the streaming extraction operator, which is written as double greater than sign, like this one, double greater than sign. Okay, now here I just define the character, which is the name here, and the name characters are 50. So I just take the character names here are 50. Okay, so these are, you can add the 50 name character into the program. Now I just write cout, and then I just write cout, which is please enter your name. Okay, and then I just write cin as an input streaming, and then here I just pass the name. So this is my name here. Okay, so this name is a character variable here, and then cout is like here I just write your name is. Okay, and then here I just print the name, and then end line. Okay, and then end line. Okay, so I just close this code here, and I'll just check the output, and yes, so this is I just write learning hub, and you can see here your name is learning hub. So I just take the keyboard input from the user, and then this is the output stream. Okay, so the C++ compiler also determine the data types of the entered value and select the appropriate stream extraction operator to extract the value and store in the given variable. So first of all, it just take the extract value and then store in this variable, and then shows the result to us. Okay, so this is a simple example of the input keyboard's input in C++. If you find any of the problem regarding to this lecture, so please let me know. Thanks for watching. Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talking about the typecasting in C++. The typecasting is making a variable of one type, such as an integer, act like another type, such like a character for one single operation. To typecast something, simply put the type of variable you want the actual variable to act instead of parentheses in front of actual variable. We have the two types of conventions in the typecasting. One is implicit convention and another one is explicit convention. Implicit convention is most our compiler make use of what is called automatic type casting. It automatically converts one type into another type. If the compiler converts a type, it will normally give a warning. For example, this warning conversions from double to integer, possible loss of data. The problem with this that you get a warning normally you want to compile without warning and the errors, and you are not in the control. What with control we mean you did not decide to convert to another type. The compiler did also. The possible loss of the data could be unwanted. Now we just see the explicit convention. That what is implicit conventions? The C and the C++ language have ways to give you back control. This can be done with what is called an explicit conventions. Sure, you may still loss of data, but you decide when to convert to another type and you don't get any compiler warning. So this is called explicit convention. Let's just see the example of that. So I just simply write hash include and then input output streaming. Okay, so I just include a header file here, then I just write using name space and std. So I just add name space file and I just create the main function here. Now I just define the type casting, so integer a here, then I just write double and the double is b, which is equal to 2.55. So this is the double, means you just take a float value. So I just take this float value into the double because this is 2.55 here. Now a, which is equal to b, and then I just write cout, and the cout here is a. So I just print the value of a, first one, and then I just write a, which is equal to integer of b. So I just write here a, which is equal to the integer of b. So I just take b as an integer here and then cout. The result is a. So I just write here a, which is end line. Okay. Now a, which is equal to, I just write here integer of b, and I just take b now in the parenthesis and then cout, which is the result of a, and here I just write end line. Okay, and I just close this code here. So the first convention is an implement convention. The compiler decide, as explained before, the compiler should give a warning here. Okay, so the second convention is an explicit typecast, in the case the C style explicit typecast, and the third convention is also explicit type, in this case C++ style explicit typecast. So we have the three conventions here, 1, 2 and 3, and now I'll just run this code and check the output for this code. And as you can see here, we have the three result of conventions. So it dropped 0.5 because I just changed these all conventions into the integer. So you can see here 2, 2 and 2. So I just take a is equal to b, so value is 2 here because a is an integer here. Then a, which is equal to integer b, so I just take b as an integer, so it will print 2 instead of 2.55. And then a is equal to integer b, and then I just print a here, so the value of a here is 2. So these are the three typecast conventions in C++. If you find any problem regarding with this lecture, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talking about the constants in C++. Constants refer to fixed value that the program may not alter, and they are called literals. Constant can be of any of the basic type and can be divided into the integer numerical numbers, floating, which is a point numerical numbers, characters, string, and boolean value. So I just told you that constant is simply a keyword which is used as const. So again, constant are treated just like regular variable, except that their value cannot be modified after their definitions. Constant, when we just declare the constant, so that value cannot be changed after their definitions. Remember that. So here I just use that this is constant. So this constant is a keyword. Remember that. You can use constant prefix to declare the constant with a specific type, like constant, then type variable, and then you just declare the value. So this is simply writing the constant. Okay. Now hash include, and here I just write input out streaming, and then I just write here using name space, which is std here, and the main function. Now here I just define constants as a keyword. So this is my constant, and then I just write integer length. Okay, so constant integer length, which is equal to 10, and then I just write constant, which is integer width, which is equal to 5. So this is constant as a keyword, the data type of the variable, then the value of that variable. Simple syntax of the constant here. Now constant, which is the character of new line, which is equal to, I just write here slash n for the new line. Okay, so first of all I just create an integer for height, width, and then character for new line, which is slash n. Now integer, I just define the area here. So I just take a new variable of area, and then I just create the logic, which is area is equal to length, and length multiplied by width. So it will calculate the area. Okay, now cout, I just write here cout, which is area. So I will print this area here, and then cout, which is new line. So I just print this value of new line here, and then return, which is 0. Okay, so here I just define 3 constants with the help of constants keyword. Their value cannot be changed after the definitions. Okay, remember that. So I just run this code right now and check the output. So you can see here area multiplied, sorry, the length multiplied by width, which is the area of 50 here. So this is our expected output from this code. You can see here 10 multiplied by 5, which is equal to 50. So I just make logic here, which is length multiplied by width, and this value cannot be changed due to this constant keyword or the constant in C++. So this is program is also for constant and the literals in C++. If you find any other problem regarding to this program or regarding to this lecture, please let me know. Thanks for watching this lecture.
Welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn about constants and literals in C++. Constants are expressions with a fixed value, and the literal are the most obvious kind of constants. They are used to express the particular values within the source code of a program. We have already used some in previous lectures to specify a specific value to the variables or the express messages we wanted our programs to print out. For example, when we wrote a is equal to 5. Okay, the 5 in the piece of the code was a literal constant. Literal constant can be classified into the integer, float, point, character, string, boolean pointer, and user-defined literals. Now we see the example of the literal and the constants. Now we see the constant expressions. Hash include IO stream. Then I just write using namespace std. Then here I just write constants. Constant as a keyword, and double, which is I just take pi value, so 14.3.14, and then constant as a character, which is new line is equal to slash n. Okay, So first one, I just take the constant as a double, and then I just take the constant as a character. Integer main, and then here is write double, and double, which is r, is equal to 5.1 as a value of a radius, and then semicolon. Now double, circle, and cout, which is circle, and then cout, which is new line. So here I just define circle, which is equal to 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by radius. Okay, and now I just check the output. So this is the process number 1 to declare the constant, and this is hash include iostream, and I have an error in the constant character, which is new line, and here it's a double, and I just write this for as a comment, but this is the print of the single line. So now we just see, yes, the value here is 31.4 as a circle value, means we have the pi value, which is 3.14, and then the new line, then radius value, and I just multiply 2 with the pi and the radius. So this is a step number 1, which is I just declare constant with the constant keyword, and as you can see, these are our, you can say that these are our literals. Now we just define the constant as a preprocessor definitions. So you just simply write here define, and define is pi, and remove this equal to, and now here I just write define, and define, which is new line, and which is n. Okay, now just check the output, and this is pi, and the circle, which is 2, and the radius r, and the double as a circle, and this is asking for the white spaces. And now I just run this code, and you can see the expected output for this code. Note that the defined line are preprocessor directories, and as such are single lines instructions that, unlike C++ statement, you do not require semicolon at the end of the directories extends automatically until the end of the line. If a semicolon is included in the line, it is the part of the replacement sequence, and is also included in all the replaced occurrences. Means you cannot add the semicolon with these constants because it's a preprocessor. Okay, so this is a simple example of the constant and the literals in C++. Thanks for watching this lecture. See you in next lecture.
Welcome to this lecture. And in this lecture, we are going to talking about the modifier and its type in C++. Except type void, which means return nothing. The basic data type may have various modifiers preceding them. You use a modifier to alter the meaning of the base type to fit the various situations more precisely. We have different types of modifier like signed, unsigned, long, and the short. You can also the modifier signed, unsigned, short, and the long to character and the integer base type. However, you may also apply long to double. So these are some of the data types, modifier and type in C++. Let's just see the coding example of that modifier and type. Here I just define hash include and iostream. So this is my header file, and then using namespace std. So I just define the std here. So I'm just creating these programs to show the difference between signed and unsigned, means unsigned integers. So integer main function here. Now I just define short. So short is a data type here. Okay, integer I. So short is the integer I here. So this will signed a short integer. Okay. Now short unsigned integer, which is j. So this is our signed integer. So I just define the keyword of unsigned here and integer j. So this is our unsigned integer. Now I just define the value to my j. So j, which is equal to, I just write 6,000. So I just define 60,000. So 6,000 here. Okay. So I, which is equal to j. So I just take I, which is equal to j, means I is equal to j. So the value will be print is C out of I, and then empty string here, and then the value of j. Now return, which is 0 here. So I just print a return which is 0. So first of all, I just create a header file, then using namespace main function, and then this is our signed short integer and this is our unsigned short integer. Let's just see the output of that code. So you can see here, this is the output, which is 6,000, and then I, which is equal to j, which is also 6,000. So I just print the two values here. Okay, so which is 6,000 and the 6,000. So this is signed and this is unsigned value of the integer. Okay, so this program is actually shows the difference between the signed and the unsigned integer. So if you find any of the problem regarding to this lecture, please let me know. Thanks for watching this lecture.
Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to be learn about the modifiers in C++. Specifiers modify the meanings of the predefined built-in data types and expand them to a much larger set. There are 4 data types modifier in C++. These are long, short, signed, and unsigned. Long and short modifier the maximum and the minimum value that a data type will hold. A plain int must have a minimum size of short. Size hierarchy is short integer and long integer. Size hierarchy for floating point numbers is float, double, and long double. Now we see what is long float. So long float is not a legal type and there are not short floating point numbers. Signed types includes both positive and negative numbers and is the default type. And unsigned is a number are always without any sign, that is always positive. Now we see the example of this modifier types, and here I just write hash include iostream, then using name space it's space std. Now here I just write integer main. So this program is to showing difference between the signed and unsigned integers. Short as a keyword and integer which is I, and variable here is I. So I is a signed short integer. Okay, so this is a signed short integer. Now short and unsigned, which is integer j. So this is unsigned short integer. Now I write j, which is equal to 40,000, and I, which is equal to j. So I just take I, which is equal to j. So cout means output of this code is I, and then here I just write empty string and j, and at the last I just write return 0. So here I just execute this code. So this program, and this is the integer j and short, which is, and j which is equal to 5000, and here it's unsigned. Okay, and execute this code. You can see here the result of j which is equal to 40,000 and I which is equal to j. So this result is because the bit pattern that's represent 40,000 as a short unsigned integer. So it is interpreted as minus 552364 and sorry the 40,000 by sort. So this is a unsigned sort value of this program. So we have some different types of qualifiers in C++, which is construct means object of the type of construct cannot be changed by your program during executions. Then violated means this type of modifier, this modifier violate tells the compiler that a variable value may be changed in the way not explicitly specified by the program. And the third number is restrict. A pointer qualifies by restrict is initially the only means by which the object its point to can be accessed only C9 and adds a new types qualifier which is called restricts. So this is a simple example of the modifier types in C++. Thanks for watching this lecture. See you in next lecture.